Working in the early days of the film industry was downright dangerous, and in some cases, deadly. The hazards grew even worse when film crews ventured into remote locations like deserts, rugged terrains, or the African wilderness. There was a particularly tragic incident, the story of Martha Mansfield, a silent film star with a promising career that was tragically cut short in an unfortunate accident. But what exactly happened? Let's dive into the mystery. Martha Mansfield was born Martha Ehrlich on July 14, 1899, in New York City. Her father, Maurice J. Ehrlich, hailed from Pennsylvania, while her mother, Harriet Gibson, was an Irish immigrant who arrived in 1885. Martha also had a younger sister, Edith, born around 1905. From a young age, Martha dreamed of becoming a stage actress. During a summer spent with her grandmother in Mansfield, Ohio, she and her friends performed Romeo and Juliet, in which Martha played the role of Romeo. Reflecting on her childhood ambitions, she once shared that, at just 14, she decided to pursue acting and approached William Brady, who was casting for Little Women at the time. While Brady initially teased her for being so young, he eventually offered her a small role as a boy in the production. In addition to acting, Martha worked as a model for artists and photographers. Alfred Cheney Johnston, a well-known photographer, described her as having a delicate pastel beauty, but within a year, she grew bored with the work, feeling it was too passive and didn't challenge her creativity. By 1913, at just 14 years old, she was already performing in the chorus of the musical Who My Thumb and appearing in a Winter Garden Review. Over the next few years, she took on roles in productions like The Sanctuary Girl in 1916 and On with the Dance in 1917. Her big break in film came thanks to her actress friend Hazel Dawn, who recommended her for roles in Max Linder's movies. Taking the stage name Martha Early, she signed with the Selig Polyscope Company and appeared in 3 films alongside a French comedian. Although she was offered a year-long contract, she opted for a 6-month contract at $250 a week. During this time, she formed a close bond with Linder, who was known for his eccentric personality. Unfortunately, his films didn't connect with American audiences, and he eventually returned to France. In 1918, she caught the attention of Florence Ziegfeld, who featured her in the Ziegfeld Follies of 1918. That same year, she made her film debut in Broadway Bill, playing the love interest of Harold Lockwood's character, a Manhattan playboy. However, her performance didn't win over critics. Martha Mansfield had a whirlwind schedule, balancing her time between the film studio and the New Amsterdam Theater. She shared with Photoplay that after performing in the Follies at night, she'd catch some sleep, grab a quick breakfast, and head to the studio by 9:00 a.m. By evening, she was back at the theater. Martha admitted that she often went to the studio in an exhausted state. In early 1919, Martha revealed she was leaving the stage to focus on her film career. She starred alongside Eugene O'Brien in The Perfect Lover, the first of 4 films they made together for Selznick Pictures. In this movie, she played Mavis Morgan, a supporting character. Although the film is now lost, its plot is known. Brian Lazar, a struggling artist, returns home after pawning a valuable ring. A woman and a detective accuse him of theft, but Brian begs to share his side of the story. He explains how Mrs. Beefield, pretending to admire his art, seduced him into a romantic affair. After painting her portrait, Brian gains popularity among society women and becomes known as the perfect lover. However, he and Mrs. Beefield are caught in a scandalous situation. Disillusioned, Brian returns to his hometown, where he falls in love with Eileen Hawthorne, the daughter of his former teacher. The two marry and move to the city, living in poverty. One day, an old acquaintance gives Brian a valuable ring to pawn, but this same woman later accuses him of stealing it. When Brian shares his story with the detective, his innocence remains in question until he introduces his wife and newborn child. Overcome with regret, the woman drops the accusation and leaves Brian and his family in peace. Later in 1919, Martha returned to the stage for a final performance in the Ziegfeld Midnight Frolic, which began in October of that year. He transformed the unused rooftop level of the New Amsterdam Theater into a unique venue with seating, tables, box seats, and a balcony. The space featured a mechanized stage, as well as a glass walkway where chorus girls performed above the audience. By 1919, the show had been renamed the Midnight Frolic and had become even more risque than the Follies. While the dancers on the glass walkway were supposed to wear bloomers, this rule wasn't always strictly enforced. Audience members voted for the most beautiful dancer, and the winner's salary was doubled. To keep the event exclusive, Ziegfeld charged a $5 cover fee, equivalent to about $117 today. Front row seats cost $3, roughly $55 today, while orchestra seats were $2.5. The upper class loved the lively party-like atmosphere, and the Midnight Frolic became an annual tradition. The show offered a mix of comedy, singing, and dancing, featuring big names like Francis White, Teddy Gerard, Eddie Cantor, Will Rogers, and W.C. Fields. During the 25-minute intermission, guests could enjoy dancing, drinks, and dinner. Back then, cold beer and soda cost between 75 cents and $1 equivalent to $17.23 today, while small bottles of champagne were priced at $2.75. The Ziegfeld kitchens gained fame for serving steak dinners and beluga caviar at $2 per serving. Despite the backdrop of World War I, the Midnight Frolic was a symbol of opulence. In 1917, the New York Times reported that Ziegfeld spared no expense, with one chiffon scene alone costing $3,000 and overall production costs reaching $100,000. The club operated for 7 years, but Prohibition ultimately brought the Midnight Frolic to an end in 1922. Martha, however, didn't stay at the Midnight Frolic for long, as a major opportunity soon came her way. In 1920, John Barrymore cast her as his fiancée in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, a role that launched her into movie stardom. Reflecting on the experience in an interview with Photoplay, Martha admitted she was easygoing, but confessed to being terrified about acting alongside the legendary Barrymore. She revealed that she only found him intimidating when he was fully transformed into Mr. Hyde. Martha's portrayal of Dr. Jekyll's sweet and innocent fiancé was in stark contrast to Nita Naldi's exotic cabaret singer. Critics took note of Martha's performance, with one review praising her for being not only beautiful, but also delivering a competent performance. Interestingly, Barrymore relied on his own physicality for the facial contortions and body movements instead of makeup. During one particularly intense transformation into Jekyll, a prosthetic finger from Hyde's hand flew off due to Barrymore's movements. After Nita Naldi's death in 1961, the New York Times noted in her obituary that Barrymore had discovered her while she was dancing at Manhattan's Winter Garden Theater. Critics from both trade publications and fan magazines largely praised Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, with much of the acclaim focused on Barrymore's performance. Variety called it a fine and dignified presentation and highlighted Barrymore's brilliance, even while calling the story itself absurd by contemporary standards. They remarked that Barrymore's natural beauty and physicality served him well as Dr. Jekyll, while his portrayal of Hyde was a marvelous depiction of animalistic behavior. However, they also noted that Barrymore's star power occasionally overshadowed the production. On April 2, Variety reported that the Rivoli Theater in New York City was already seeing massive box office success from the film's screenings. Public reactions to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1920 was a mixed bag, especially when compared to the critics' largely positive reviews. Fan magazines and everyday moviegoers had a range of opinions. For example, in its June 1920 issue, Photoplay shared critic Burns Mantle's account of two friends who had drastically different takes on the film. One called it a masterpiece destined to become a cinematic classic, while the other said it left her deeply depressed, claiming it gave her an overwhelming case of the blues that she doubted she'd ever fully shake. The magazine also highlighted the film's popularity. During its New York premiere, the crowd's excitement led to a door and two windows being broken. Martha Mansfield's role in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde catapulted her into the spotlight and paved the way for a promising film career. Despite her growing fame, little was known about her personal life. The 1920 edition of Who's Who on the Screen described her as one of the most charming actresses in the industry, providing details like her height, weight, blonde hair, and gray eyes. Beyond that, however, information about her remained scarce. Interestingly, the studio publicity kept quiet about Martha's marriage, which likely occurred in the late 1910s. There were hints, though. Records from the 1920 U.S. federal census listed her as married, and a 1919 article in the Mansfield News, her mother's hometown paper, mentioned Martha visiting family. She and her husband had spent several weeks at their home in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin, before she headed to New York to work on Civilian Clothes, her final film with famous players. In 1920, after wrapping up Civilian Clothes with Thomas Mahan, Martha signed an exclusive contract with Selznick Pictures under Louis J. Selznick. While Selznick seemed impressed with her potential, Photoplay magazine was less kind, criticizing her acting in Civilian Clothes as pretty but fearfully inadequate dramatically. Around this time, she was also positioned as the successor to the late actress Olive Thomas in Selznick's lineup of rising stars. Martha went on to appear alongside Eugene O'Brien in 3 films: The Last Chance, Gilded Lies, and The Last Door. In Gilded Lies, her character marries into high society at her aunt's urging, believing her fiancé has been lost during a North Pole expedition. Meanwhile, in The Last Door, Martha's character is hired to pose as a woman on the run from the police, only to discover that O'Brien's character is a master thief impersonating someone else. The plot thickened with a mix of mystery and comedy. By 1921, after working on The Man of Stone, where her character leaves her fiancé for a wealthier man, Selznick's interest in promoting Martha's career began to wane. Martha took a break from films to tour in vaudeville, which sparked rumors of a romance with Crane Wilbur, a well-known stage actor and former co-star of Pearl White in The Perils of Pauline. The two performed together in San Francisco in the fall of 1921. The Oakland Tribune humorously speculated that Martha had left her film co-star Eugene O'Brien for vaudeville. The paper joked that she had traded the expense of weeping on screen for the act of crying on Wilbur's shirt during live performances, which required no glycerin. When asked about marriage rumors, Wilbur denied them, but admitted he was still searching for a true partner, saying he hoped to find a woman who could be both a companion and someone who loved the idea of building a home together. In 1922, Selznick cast Martha Mansfield in only 2 films, both produced by small independent studios, Pyramid and Dependable. For most of that year, however, Martha focused on performing in vaudeville. She often shared her thoughts on the craft of acting, explaining to reporters that she considered the stage to be the ultimate training ground for actors. She believed that stage acting demanded spontaneity and naturalism. During a February performance in Cleveland, Ohio, Martha spoke about the recent high-profile murder of Hollywood director William Desmond Taylor. She speculated that the killer might have been a drug addict whom Taylor had unsuccessfully tried to help secure work in the film industry. She suggested that investigators focus on someone who had persistently sought Taylor's assistance in the weeks leading up to his death. By 1923, Martha appeared in 8 films. She was frequently cast as vamps. One notable exception was her performance in Fogbound, a Paramount murder mystery set in the Florida swamps. Despite playing a relatively unsympathetic character, Martha's performance stood out, even overshadowing the film's star, Dorothy Dalton. Later that year, Martha parted ways with Selznick and signed a long-term contract with Fox, marking a potential turning point in her career. Her first project with Fox was a minor role in The Silent Command, a thriller about a plot to destroy the Panama Canal. The film promised plenty of excitement, complete with a hero, a vamp, and dramatic twists. Critics praised Martha's performance, though they noted inconsistent lighting during her scenes. By November 1923, Martha was already filming what many believed could be her breakout role in The Warrens of Virginia. In this Fox production, she played a young Confederate woman engaged to a Union officer. The cast began shooting in Hollywood before moving to San Antonio, Texas, to complete the location scenes. On Thanksgiving morning, the crew gathered at the St. Anthony Hotel for breakfast before filming the final scenes. Martha, excited about a new radio in her hotel room, eagerly shared her plans to host a radio party that evening. She marveled at the technology, mentioning that she had listened to broadcasts from Chicago and Cincinnati the previous night. She remarked how it almost felt like being with her mother, knowing they might be listening to the same programs at the same time. After their morning meal, the group ventured about 3 miles to Brackenridge Park, ready to film scenes for a plantation setting, where rustic shacks served as servant quarters. Martha waited nearby in her limousine, staying out of sight until her presence was required on set. The crew worked on several outdoor shots before the director called for a quick 30-minute break to set up for indoor scenes. During the pause, Martha stepped back into her car to rest. The serene atmosphere of the park was shattered just 10 minutes later by a blood-curdling scream. It was Thanksgiving Day, and the film team was scheduled to wrap up final scenes between Martha and her co-star, Wilfrid Lytell. Martha decided to rest alone in her limousine. Unbeknownst to her, an ember from a match that hadn't been fully extinguished still smoldered on the car floor. Someone had casually flicked the match after lighting a cigarette, oblivious to the lingering danger. That small flame burned Martha's elaborate outfit, made of a material so flammable that the flames spread like wildfire, consuming her dress in mere moments. Witnesses nearby heard the commotion, an eruption of desperate cries, and turned in horror to see Martha bolting out of her limousine, wrapped in flames. Wilfrid Lytell, among the first to react, rushed to her side. Quick thinking, he removed his coat, smothering the blaze. Someone quickly called for medical help. Those at her side recalled her extraordinary composure as she repeatedly asked, "Is my face unharmed? Will my cheeks and neck be scarred forever?" Her greatest fear wasn't the pain, it was the permanent scars that could alter her appearance and career. Tragically, her condition took a significant turn during the night. By late morning the next day, just shy of noon, Martha Mansfield succumbed to her injuries. Only 24 years old, she passed away due to extensive burns across her body. Combined with complications like systemic toxicity and kidney failure, the heartbreak within the film crew was palpable. Martha's once beautiful Civil War costume had tragically doubled as a funeral shroud. The exact cause of the fire remains a matter of speculation. Some theorized she might have been smoking a cigarette during her short break, but her mother, Harriet Eric, vehemently disputed this claim. Harriet insisted Martha seldom smoked, except when required for a role. She remarked that Martha had often told her smoking made her feel ill, disliked cigarettes, and rarely used them. She added that she could not believe Martha had lit one while sitting quietly in the car, and that if a match or cigarette had caused the fire, she was certain it was not her daughter's doing. Martha's tragic end sent shockwaves through Hollywood. A local newspaper posed a chilling question, wondering who could have possibly inflicted such cruelty on her. What kind of person would harm a young woman this way? Others entertained the notion that Martha might have taken her own life, but those close to her were quick to reject this idea. One of her friends, describing Martha's zest for life, said there were few young women at the age of 23 as grounded, joyful, and fulfilled as she had been. Her radiant happiness, contentment with life, and the success she was building stood out as much as her beauty and acting talent. Actor Philip Shea accompanied Martha's body back to New York, while her loyal lifelong friend Florence Leeds, who had previously kept a low profile following her involvement in the James A. Stillman divorce scandal, stepped forward to help with the funeral arrangements. Broadway was steeped in grief. Around 5,000 mourners waited for hours to pay their respects as they filed past her silver-lined coffin. Friends and colleagues, including Follies stars Betty Hale, Diana Allen, and Lillian Mackenzie, along with Frances Grant, expressed their sorrow. Frances, overwhelmed with emotion, openly wept and lamented Martha's youth, exclaiming through tears that she had been far too young to die. Martha's funeral drew a significant crowd of mourners from Hollywood and Broadway. Icons like John Barrymore, Gloria Swanson, Betty Compson, and Anita Stewart attended the service held at Campbell's funeral home. Influential names in the film industry, including Samuel Goldwyn, David Selznick, and Edmund Goulding, served as pallbearers. After the ceremony, Florence Leeds made a poignant and tearful farewell to her beloved childhood friend. She approached the coffin, leaned over to whisper a private goodbye, and then disappeared into the gathering mourners. Martha was laid to rest at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York. Tragically, her final role in The Warrens of Virginia was reduced to an almost negligible part after her passing. Another actress, Rosemary Hill, was given greater prominence as the film's supporting star. When the movie premiered in October 1924, Variety noted Martha's absence from the title credits. Wilfrid Lytell, who played the male lead opposite Martha, was the only one acknowledged for his role. The devastating reality is that the world never got to see where her journey might have led. Just as she was beginning to live the life she had always dreamed of, Martha Mansfield's bright future was extinguished far too soon. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow us for more untold stories about Hollywood. This episode ends here. See you next time. Welcome to our channel. Today we will learn about the life of Florence Henderson, a famous American singer and actress. Florence is best known for her role as Carol Brady in the family comedy The Brady Bunch. However, this seemingly perfect TV family faced challenges. Years after the show ended, Florence received a call from her on-screen husband, Robert Reed. He shared a heartbreaking secret with her and made a shocking request. We will reveal more details about it later. As Carol Brady, Florence Henderson charmed millions of families and became a beloved mother figure. Florence Henderson was born on February 14, 1934, in Dale, Indiana. She was a special gift to her parents, Elizabeth and Joseph. As the youngest of 10 children, she was surrounded by a large family. Florence Henderson's childhood was not easy. Years later, she recalled sharing a bed with her 4 siblings, trying to keep warm in their cold home on winter nights. Although the family was extremely poor, Florence's mother brought joy to their lives through music. When Florence was just 2 years old, her mother taught her to sing, introducing her to 50 songs. By the time she could walk, Florence knew all the lyrics, sparking her passion for performing. Florence Henderson was not only the youngest child in the family, she was also an entertainer. By the age of 12, she was attracting audiences by singing in grocery stores. These small performances marked the beginning of her promising career. Although she preferred acting to academics, Florence completed her studies and graduated from St. Francis Academy in Kentucky in 1951. Immediately after receiving her diploma, she rushed to the train station and headed to New York City, full of dreams and aspirations. At the age of 17, Florence entered the American Academy of Dramatic Arts to pursue a career in show business. Her experience, however, was far from glamorous. She moved into Arts Club 3, a women's residence with small rooms that she later described as resembling spacious closets. Fortunately, her hard work soon paid off. Florence debuted on Broadway in early 1952, and her charm and easy smile landed her a role in the musical Wish You Were Here. Just 2 years later, she landed the lead role in the long-running musical Fanny, which ran for an impressive. It was a dream come true, but it almost didn't happen. In the mid-1950s, Florence Henderson received a terrifying medical diagnosis that threatened to end her career before it even began. She discovered that she had a bone malformation in her inner ear that could lead to deafness. Fortunately, the surgery restored her hearing and allowed her to continue performing. Soon after the surgery, Florence's career took a dramatic turn. In 1958, she left Broadway to make her television debut in the made-for-TV adaptation of Little Women. Although the film was not a huge success, it opened up new opportunities for the talented actress. However, to achieve true fame, she would have to make a difficult choice that involved betraying a friend. Florence's chance to become America's favorite mother was almost gone, and she owed it to her friend. Shirley Jones, another Broadway star, was offered the role of Carol Brady but turned it down, saying she didn't want to be seen as a stay-at-home mom. Fortunately for Florence, Jones's decision opened doors for her. Although Florence found success on Broadway, her arrival in Hollywood came with its own challenges. During her audition, she discovered that the studio would not arrange for anyone to do her makeup. Determined to succeed, she went to a nearby studio to seek help. Unfortunately, she did not receive a warm welcome. Florence Henderson unexpectedly showed up on the set where they were filming one of the final episodes of Star Trek. She managed to get a makeup chair right between William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. But instead of receiving a friendly greeting, the two famous actors completely ignored her. Florence was determined to make an impression, but initially, the Brady Bunch producer Sherwood Schwartz had promised the role of Carol Brady to Joyce Bulifant. However, Bulifant turned down the role in favor of another opportunity, allowing Schwartz to give the role to Florence. By this time, Florence had moved around quite a bit. She had filmed the first episode of the Brady Bunch, but didn't think the studio would pick it up, so she went to Scandinavia to work on Song of Norway. With no future roles and believing that the sitcom wouldn't be a success, Florence devoted herself full-time to her role in the musical. She adopted a method acting approach, meaning she spent a lot of time on hair and makeup to get her character ready for a wig. However, thinking that she might be out of work for a long time, she decided to shave her head to make things easier. She knew that her new look would also lead to a new role. To Henderson's delight, Paramount Television decided to pick up the Brady Bunch. However, there was a problem: she was bald. Unsurprisingly, her new hairstyle did not fit the classic stay-at-home mom image that Schwartz envisioned. Nevertheless, the show had to go on, so for the entire first season, Carol Brady's iconic bangs were actually a wig. The wig was quite large because it concealed many secrets. Florence Henderson admired her character, Carol Brady, but she felt that the role did not challenge her. Throughout the show's run, she often urged the producers to give Carol a job outside the home. Florence believed that this would make Carol more relatable and more like her own life, since she was a real mother. In 1956, Florence Henderson started her own version of the Brady Bunch when she married actor and producer Ira Bernstein. During their 3 decades together, Florence and Bernstein had 4 children. The downside was that her family lived in New York while she filmed her comedy in Los Angeles, and her solution came at a high cost. Carol Brady was a devoted and hard-working mother, but she was no match for Florence Henderson. Throughout the 5 seasons of the Brady Bunch, which lasted 4 years, Florence worked tirelessly to keep her family, both her real family and her television family, together. She flew from Los Angeles to New York every weekend to spend time with her loved ones. However, sometimes her family was a little too affectionate. Just like in real life, Florence's TV family doted on her, perhaps even too much. During the 2nd season of the Brady Bunch, 15-year-old Barry Williams, who played the eldest son Greg Brady, boldly asked his 36-year-old TV mother, Florence, out on a date. He later admitted that when hormones kick in, even inanimate objects can become interesting. Florence's response was surprising. Williams explained that he wasn't looking for romance, he just wanted to spend time with his TV mom. Surprisingly, Florence agreed to dinner, and even gave him a friendly kiss on the cheek at the end of the evening. "It was an honor for her to give me some attention," Williams later said. According to Florence Henderson, there was more to the story. She mentioned that Williams' brother was the one who drove them on the date. Florence described the kiss as a little peck on the cheek or something. She added humorously, "I've never been interested in young men. And besides, I'm married." She also joked that Williams has dated many people, including her daughter Barbara. Unfortunately, not all of her children share the same affection for her. Maureen McCormick, best known for her TV role as Marcia Brady, sparked controversy with her memoir, which included shocking stories about Florence Henderson, who played her mother, Carol Brady. McCormick described Florence as a topless and flirtatious sunbather, leading to a media frenzy. In response, Florence stated that McCormick had portrayed her as more scandalous than she actually was, but she never directly denied the claims. Years later, when asked about the rumors, Florence referred to McCormick's selective memory but did not criticize her. Despite the hurtful claims, Florence held no grudge against McCormick. She said, "Whoever published it wanted to sensationalize it," and expressed sympathy for the younger generation, noting that they had succeeded. Her willingness to rise above the rumors eventually paid off. She and McCormick remained friends. In late 2016, Florence showed her support by attending Dancing with the Stars, where McCormick was a contestant. This gesture highlighted the genuine bond between them, reminiscent of their on-screen family, though not immune to challenges. Florence Henderson tried her best to protect her family, but she was not always successful, and sometimes her efforts led to unfortunate outcomes. One notable incident was the disappearance of the Brady Bunch dog, Tiger, after just 4 episodes, leaving viewers confused about his fate. The sad truth, as Barry Williams revealed, was that Tiger died under a laundry truck. Fortunately, Florence was not blamed for the tragedy. In a 2006 survey conducted by TV Guide and Bravo, 45% of viewers said Florence's portrayal of Carol Brady significantly influenced their views of housewives, surpassing iconic characters like June Cleaver and even Shirley Jones's role on The Partridge Family. Florence's fans expressed their admiration in heartfelt ways, often wishing they could be part of the Brady family. Many even wanted her to adopt them. During one memorable encounter in Las Vegas, a young man approached her and said, "Excuse me, but you had a huge impact on my life growing up." However, homesickness could not pay her bills. Despite playing a housewife on a successful show, Florence still faced financial challenges. She noted that while the series thrived in terms of merchandise sales and releases, earnings for the cast quickly declined. Florence Henderson's TV role as a housewife was only one aspect of her career. In fact, her work on the Brady Bunch wasn't even her main source of income. Throughout her career, she secured lucrative, long-term endorsement deals with brands like Wesson Oil and Polydent. After years of working with these brands, she quipped, "I always say it buys a lot of music and a lot of clothes." However, it was the Brady Bunch that truly established her cultural significance. Florence credits the show's enduring popularity, even years after its conclusion, to its focus on family. She noted that the chemistry between the cast was exceptional, leading them to form strong bonds. However, over time, even the closest families can drift apart, often due to underlying issues. After 29 years of marriage and raising 4 children together, Florence and her husband, Ira Bernstein, decided to divorce. The news shocked many fans of the Brady Bunch, but Florence tried to keep the details private. The divorce had a profound impact on her, and she sought alternative ways to cope. By 1982, Florence Henderson had developed a fear of flying and severe stage fright after her success on the Brady Bunch. Traditional therapies were not effective for her, so she sought the help of hypnotherapist John Kappas. He successfully treated her phobias and also helped heal her emotional pain. Over time, Florence and Dr. Kappas realized that their relationship was deeper than that of therapist and patient. In 1987, they married and together built a life filled with love and healing. Florence Henderson was so impressed with her hypnosis results that she decided to move to the other side of the therapist's office. After moving to Marina del Rey with John Kappas, Florence also earned her hypnosis certification. Although she doesn't practice, she has confessed that, if she didn't have a career, she would do it full-time. She also has some other hidden talents. Florence Henderson isn't just a comedy star who moonlights as a hypnotist, she's a true game show legend. A regular on Hollywood Squares, she's also showcased her game show skills on What's My Line, Match Game, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and many others. In other words, if there's a bell on TV, Henderson will ring it. Florence Henderson is a pioneer in many ways. While her character Carol Brady may fit the traditional mold, Florence herself is much more progressive. In the 1960s, she became the first woman to guest host The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, proving that she was no ordinary housewife. When the producers of 1995's The Brady Bunch movie asked Florence to make a cameo appearance in their spin-off, she declined. Florence felt her cameo was too small and didn't like the changes made to her character. Much to her surprise, fans agreed. When the producers tested the film, audiences noticed her absence and were outraged. They wanted their Brady mom back, and they wanted her back now. When the producers of the Brady Bunch movie saw how much audiences loved Florence Henderson, they felt compelled to contact her for a cameo. They offered her extra money and creative control over her scene, which convinced her to join. This allowed Florence to appear, much to the delight of her fans who wanted to see her return to the role. During the first run of the Brady Bunch, Florence quickly formed close relationships with her co-stars. However, she noticed that Robert Reed, who played her on-screen husband, often appeared uncomfortable in their romantic scenes. One day, during a heartfelt conversation, Reed revealed his secret: he was attracted to men. Florence was supportive, agreeing to keep his secret and promising to help him navigate their romantic scenes. They practiced kissing and hugging in private to ensure that their on-screen chemistry looked authentic. Thanks to her dedication, they successfully created a believable romantic relationship. Florence Henderson protected Robert Reed from damaging rumors throughout their friendship, but she felt he never received the recognition he deserved. For almost their entire relationship, Florence kept Reed's secret, never revealing it to anyone. Then, Reed received a devastating diagnosis: colonic lymphoma, a rare form of colon cancer. He confided in his daughter and close friends, then called Florence. During the call, he shared his medical condition and made a heartbreaking request. He asked her to inform the other members of the Brady Bunch that he would not survive. Florence made the difficult calls and waited for the results. Tragically, she did not have to wait long. On May 12, 1992, just weeks after their conversation, Reed died at Huntington Memorial Hospital at the age of 59. Newspapers reported his death, stating that it was due to cancer. Details from Reed's medical certificate were later made public, shocking a generation of Brady Bunch fans. Florence Henderson was finally ready to reveal what she had known all along. Reed was gay. For years, she had kept it a secret, never judging him and doing her best to protect him. On Thanksgiving Day 2016, the Brady Bunch fans received shocking news: Florence Henderson had passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Her manager announced that the 82-year-old actress had died suddenly of heart failure, describing the situation as a shock. Florence Henderson has played a major role in shaping the lives of many children, both on and off screen. She once shared, "I have 4 children, and sometimes they ask me, 'Why don't you yell at the kids on TV like you yell at us?' I tell them, 'Because those kids aren't mine, they're yours. And I want you to grow up to be great people.' And they do." She proudly says she has 4 incredible children. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of Florence Henderson's life. This file ends here. Thank you for joining us.